Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ag Commodity Corner Plus podcast. It's August the 22nd, 2025, and guess who's back? Mo, hope you had a great tour. I can't wait to hear what you saw. And let's get straight into it.
Yeah, thank you, Avinash. I don't care for these 2 weeks of the year because I look forward to it, but at the same time, I regret it because it's a lot of work. But it's over, and we'll get into that here quite quickly. Welcome. I'm just not a pretty face. I can actually do crop tours, believe it or not. It's been 10 years, and I think this one's going to be a challenge, and I'll talk about it. But is this week 23, correct?
Week 23.
So we're talking about this subject again, and I know Avinash in past podcasts has used this as a title, but connecting the dots. This is very, very important because there's more and more information that's coming out that if you read between the lines, I think Trump has a trade deal with China in his back pocket. So connecting the dots equals a U.S.-China trade deal. We're hoping by mid-November. Plus, the 2025 Great Ontario Tour, it's a drought in Ontario, and actually there's a drought in Quebec as well. So we'll talk about that. Before we get into the main presentation, this is the weekly quote summary chart, and again, it feels, smells, and tastes like a bottom in corn, up 5 cents for the week. Who would have thought? Now that's September corn, not necessarily December corn. Soybeans also up 16 for the week. It actually closed at 10.58.5. Remember from past podcasts, your technical ceiling or buy signal was 10.31.5. I hope you guys are learning as you're watching these podcasts, because I'm going to give you a test at some point and test you. But soy oil also higher because of some EPA biofuel waivers and RINs and all that fun stuff. We'll get into that, which also helped canola. And despite the tariffs from China, which we'll get into, we'll give you an update. It's actually trading or trending higher. That 200-day moving average is holding, as well as that 650 support. And then we got Chicago wheat actually traded to new lows. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised, but it's not September, so I don't know if we're going to get a post-harvest rally just yet. Corn can act as an anchor, but corn's rallying. So that's and the trade doesn't really care because wheat exports are off to a great start. So and then we've got, of course, the same old record-breaking cattle and live cattle moving higher. And the Dow hit an all-time high. We'll get into that here today. S&P came close. These numbers were before the market closed, and NASDAQ was slightly lower because of a rotation out of tech. But I don't know, how many times have we seen a rotation out of tech and then they all come bouncing back and they all trade to new highs? Okay, let's start with that. I wanted to start with the last Monday's post from Trump on his Social Truth Network.
Well, I tried to introduce this last week. It's that, like you said, the post on the social network regarding Trump urging China to quadruple their soybean purchases going forward. Does this smell like a phase 2 trade deal? And then, on the other hand, we did speak about how he might be agreeing to export AI chips to China. And when you connect all those dots, it could possibly point to, win for the soybean farmer. There's been follow-through trade news as well. This week we had headlines on the U.S., or rather Boeing, looking to sell 500 planes to China. So all of it could tie into a mega deal there.
Remember, some will argue with me and say, why do you think China's going to buy? Well, China could overpay for soybeans. They don't like to buy on quota. They like to buy cheap when the price is right. But remember, NVIDIA is a 4.5 trillion company, and you could argue with me that AMD is selling chips to China, and they're only 300 billion. But the soybean market is valued at 40 billion. Could they overpay for some soybeans because they're getting those AI chips from Trump that they wanted? Of course they could. So I think it's just a matter of time. And remember, all of a sudden, China wants 500 Boeing planes. Do you remember in April when they were canceling every Boeing airplane ever made? All of a sudden, we're back to the table again. So again, I'm trying to connect all these dots as time goes on. Trump paused the tariffs with China by 90 days. That puts you at around mid-November. And what is going to happen mid-November? Well, he and Trump are expected to meet at the APEC summit on November 14th and 15th. Are you getting the picture? So I think the funds are getting nervous, and they continually, over time, you guys have to remain patient. As farmers, you have no patience. You got to let this play out. It's only a couple months from now. Go harvest your crop, figure out what your yield is, and then we'll figure out whether we need to sell something or not. In the meantime, I think prices go higher.
The other fundamental input, it's been crop tour season all across North America. This is the annual 2025 Pro Farmer Crop Tour, and today, just fresh off the press, they came out with their final yield estimates. And if you guys see that on the screen, they came out with a 182.7 more. That is sharply lower than what USDA came out with in August at 188.8. And for soybeans, they are at 53 versus the USDA at 53.6.
I don't know if Chip Flory would agree, but some people have called me the Chip Flory of Ontario because I do the 2025 Great Ontario Yield Tour. We've done it for 10 years. He's been doing that crop tour for about 42 years. He doesn't have a lot of love with that tour sometimes, but it's hard for him to do a crop tour in the United States because it's so much larger than Ontario. We can cover Ontario and do a really good job compared to him, but his challenge is it's just so large. I mean, if you've ever done a crop tour in the Midwest, I used to do a U.S. one, a windshield one, didn't have any signs behind it. It was killing me, so I decided to quit before I was 6 feet under. But, I mean, the state of Iowa alone, I would take 3 days just to tour Iowa and talk to farmers and see what's going on. And they're doing a crop tour across 5 or 6 states in 4 or 5 days. So I've never heard Chip, it's been a long time, where he's concerned about the crops, and it's because of disease. So my take is the East is lower than the USDA was saying in August. The West is higher, but the West was too wet and has too much disease. And that's why I think he came in at 182.7 on the corn. I thought, based on the data that I saw from the crop tour, that the soybean yield could come in at 54, 55. So they fudged it, probably massaged it a little bit lower because of disease. But other than that, I think the bean crop is a bit better than the corn crop. I don't think you see it in the September 12th crop report because the USDA is going to use their plot data. And I think it's too early. This disease probably takes its toll into October, November. So it's the combine that probably shows you a problem. Now, it's still going to be a record crop, 182.7. I don't think the disease can knock off 10 bushels from now till the final, but the final could probably come in around this. We were thinking 184 to 185.
From there, let's come to Ontario and look at the Ontario yield tour that you just concluded. On the whole, does not look like a record crop like we've been seeing over the last couple of years. Seems like we've come to the end of that 5-year run where we had strong yields. And in the province as well, it looks like soybean is winning over corn. Mo, give us some of your top observations. What do you think is going to happen?
So the pictures do justice to Eastern Ontario and Quebec. I was just talking to my friend Jean-Philippe Boucher, who runs a Quebec crop tour with a company called GrainWiz. And it sounds like Quebec's even worse than Eastern Ontario. So this is from Eastern Ontario, Mountain, Ottawa, D and G counties. One of the farmers from our final event, their host, I won't mention names, but because it's devastating. He's been farming for 35 years. That's a cornfield. Those are corn ears. That's a soybean field. the weeds are still growing, and both the corn and the soybean fields are dead because this farmer got zero precip in 3 months. That's what dead corn and beans looks like. So even though we had genetics or better genetics, we have all this technology, rain makes grain, period. So Southwestern Ontario is a lot better, but it's not the last 2 years. In Ontario, the last 2 years, we had record crops, 204 bushels per acre. My concern with the beans is they're flat. You got BBs as beans in those pods, and we're not. The Southwestern Ontario is getting rains, but the eastern portion is not. So if anybody knows about Ontario and geography, Highway 19, Ingersoll, east, south, and north is a problem. Houston, we got a problem. And so we're gonna have our final event next Thursday in Woodstock. We'll remind you again at the end, but we're gonna reveal our final yields for the province on that day. And hopefully you can join us.
Let's take a look at what else has been driving the market. So yesterday there was headline news regarding the EPA and possibly a decision on the much-awaited small refinery exemptions or waivers. So I'm just going to read out what the ruling is as of today. So EPA on Friday began clearing a backlog of requests from small oil refineries for exemptions from U.S. biofuel laws, granting 63 requests and denying 28. 77 received partial approvals and 13 applications remain undecided. So this seems to be a mixed bag as far as ESIs.
Yeah, so yesterday, soy oil futures, you can see from the chart here, this is the daily September soy oil futures chart. We had a big rally, and today we took some of that down. We ended the week slightly down. I think the market was a little bit disappointed with the headline news today. If it could have helped demand and RIN prices, but instead the news was worse than expected. The market, there was rumors that maybe the EPA would not give away as many small refineries as they suggested today. So a little bit of disappointment, but I think the good news is it's out of the way. We're finally got a ruling, and we can move on with life. So one of the reasons why canola futures were also higher.
Sticking with much awaited, the whole market's been waiting for when the US Fed might indicate that they'll cut rates again. So today there was an announcement, or rather a speech by the US Fed chair, Powell. And it looks like the indications are that we might get a rate cut sooner rather than later. More the CME Fed watch is pointing to almost 90% chance of a rate cut in September, but only a 0.25 percentage cut.
I'm not surprised. I saw this coming from a mile away. I knew that the minute the Fed would start to lower rates, you'd add fuel to the fire. And that's why the Dow went to record highs. Don't own it. Don't trade it. Own it. Play the long game. As farmers, you guys are very wealthy. Well, in most cases, you've done well with ag land. You've been farming for 40, 50 years. But it's all focused and concentrated in one thing. Don't be afraid to diversify in stocks. I'll give you an example. You've heard the story where in the 50s you could buy a home for $8,000. Your parents bought a home for $8,000, now it's worth $1 million. Do you know what the S&P 500 has done in that same period of time? That same $8,000 is $15.4 million. Maybe that house wasn't that great of an investment. So you made money in both, but you made more in stock. So this is positive because the economy is doing well. Corporate earnings are doing well. And don't forget, next Wednesday, the tilts of the stock market is going to report. NVIDIA! And I think they're going to have a great quarter, and they're going to beat and exceed. And this is only going to add, this week, a lot of momentum traders were rotating out of tech. But how many times have we seen that in the last 7 to 8 months? Only for them to go to record highs. So initial innings of this, I'm excited. we're going to new records by the end of the year. But don't forget, join our program. I don't know what else to say to you, but we got the app. We got where you can look at quotes. All our information is on the app. So while on the road, all you need is a smartphone. This week, we're talking about connecting these dots that we're talking about in this podcast, but the impact on prices and your game plan, what you need to do. Remember, marketing is like a game of poker. You need to know when to hold and fold. And unless you do a very good job of that, your marketing can be poor at times. Try out the program.
Well, we've been talking about how the Canadian canola farmer or the Western Canadian farmer has been reeling from all these geopolitics. So the latest, as far as headlines is concerned, is that the Saskatchewan Premier plans to visit China in order to rectify, the issues with the canola tariffs, and he's urging Prime Minister as well to join him.
Yeah, I think you're going to need the feds to step in to fix this. I don't think, nothing against Scott Moe, but he's just the provincial premier. I don't think he's high enough to fix this. And unfortunately, Carney is too busy with Trump and all that fun stuff. So, but there was some good news on that front as well. In fact, Carney in Canada had dropped all tariffs against U.S. except for on autos, steel, and aluminum. He's trying to get Trump to come to the table and do a deal. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I'm not concerned about this. The futures have bottomed. They factored in this news. I know you're still concerned about it because it's a tariff and let's move on and all that fun stuff. And maybe we should lower the EV tariffs on Chinese cars, but it will get resolved. I'm not sure we have the capability in our government to resolve this unless Carney steps in. But the action today was good. I think we could go back to trading that 680 to 710. But guys, talk to me, man. You're harvesting. What's that canola yield coming out at? What's wheat doing? Southern Alberta got a lot of rains when they needed it. Looks like better crops. But as you travel further central, north, I'm hearing disappointing yields in like peas coming in lower, oats at 100 versus 200 last year. So I do not think that the canola crop is there. We won't know more until the end of September, but the fact that we were able to hold that 200 is positive sign. So again, patience. Harvest your crop, figure out what your yield is, and then we'll figure this out. But I think once we get past harvest, we could see canola back in the 700s.
Looking at the forecast for the U.S. and the latest as far as the U.S. National Weather Service is that looking ahead to the rest of the summer and also into early fall, it looks like higher than normal temperatures for the U.S. Midwest. It does not look like that crop there is going to get a good finish, possibly a drier, hotter finish.
No, this is from August 1st to August 21st, and I've been saying it. It just feels like a poor finish to the crops, both here in Ontario and perhaps in the United States. And that's not good because that's a repeat of last year. And last year we left yield on the table. So you can see here how dry it is versus 133 years. And then if we look at the temperature, it's not extremely high, but it's still hot compared to the 133 years. So that's a concern for me. The beans really needed some more rain here, but September is also key. Remember, these hybrids are racehorses, and we need to give them a long finish. And I'm not sure we're going to be able to give them a long finish. I'm not worried about frost. So I think that's off the table.
We could have a lot of anticipation building into that final January crop report like we had this year as well.
Yep.
could be looking at USDA cutting sharply, possibly yields. This here is the lean hogs chart. So the latest as far as the USDA's livestock update is concerned is that PRRS is still roiling the US hog herd. It looks like the second half, and especially Q4 of 2025, should be looking at lowered supply of slaughter-ready hogs.
I never thought the USDA would ever acknowledge that PRRS was a problem, and this is a first, and this is good news for hog producers. You can see the double bottom on the chart. Guess what? If we get past Labor Day with no crash in cutouts or cash, which it doesn't look like it's going to happen, you get a very strong seasonal between mid-September, mid-October, and I think October is going to go off the board above 100. So it's been a good year for hog producers. Congratulations. I think we're going to remain above the 200-day moving average, which is this one right here. Your 200 is your key to marketing. Remember that. 200 moving average.
Sticking with geopolitics, this week we had headlines on the US and EU revisiting that preliminary trade deal that they agreed to, which, supported markets. There's more info as far as headlines is concerned. This has been taken positively by the trade and by markets more.
Yeah, I apologize because the print is very small, but those are just the details of that final EU trade deal with the US. But my point is, it's an investment again in the US. This is a total of 8 trade deals so far, and each one has an investment. And so with Trump, it's not about politics, it's about money. Show me the money. And I think if Canada wants to do a trade deal, they're going to have to invest in the U.S. Same thing with Mexico and China. And I think we could have all of these figured out by the end of the year.
And we're seeing some of that optimism regarding the already in place trade deals or agreed to trade deals, and also newer trade deals to come in some of these weekly ag export numbers. This year is the corn new marketing year total. It's the second best over the last 10 years. So strong demand for corn, owing to possibly those lower prices more and also a lower US dollar as well.
It's up 58% compared to last year for the same period of time. It's very early in the marketing year. In the next few weeks, you're going to see this red line surge, and you'll be at record highs. It's only compared to 21-22, that's when China had a phase 1 trade deal. So imagine by mid-November, we get a Chinese trade deal and they're buying corn on top of corn. Everybody else is buying corn. This is quite amazing. It's fantastic. And that's one reason why I think corn futures are bottoming, because you got 16.7 billion. Maybe it's something smaller according to Pro Farmer, but that demand is there. I was concerned that maybe the USDA is overestimating that demand, but this is pretty good. And I $4 corn is value buying here. So
let's look at Ontario, and this is the local corn basis chart. And old crop has just spiked through the roof there, and all those inputs from your tour as well agrees with the same fact that there are end users grappling for supply or otherwise looking to book early more.
This is bullish, guys. If you're in Ontario, you got some old crop corn in bins. We like to play. We call it AKA play bushels. We like to keep 20-30% as play bushels. So for those larger farmers who have the storage, we've suggested we play this game 8-9 every year, and 8-9 times out of 10, when you're good, you're lucky. We're getting lucky, but guess what? We did our final event out east yesterday. We reported a smaller yield for corn. The trade was giving the farmers $6.50, but I know U.S. farmers, just calm down. You need to come farming in Ontario because you can get better price. I'm just kidding. But Ours is because of the lower dollar, so we get a higher basis, and that's why we tend to get better prices. But the trader's giving the farmer $6.50. Within 18 hours, that $6.50 became $7. We ran out of corn on July 1st. Some are short. We're not going to be able to harvest a bunch of corn in September. The crop's not mature enough based on our tour. And so some are going to be short. Feed trade in Quebec is on fire now that their crop has burnt up, and Eastern Ontario burnt up, and Southwest is good, but it's not exceptional, and it's not enough to offset all this. We're going to be short in Ontario. We're going to have to import U.S. corn. But I said we could go by mid-September to $8 flat. Yes, you heard right, $8. You're going to see a 3 in front of basis. This thing is on fire, and good for the farmer that still has some old crop corn.
Finally, let's look at the CFTC, and this is the latest. This is the latest that CFTC announced today. So you've got corn net short about 144,000. So on week, there was net buying by the funds. And soybeans there, we are net long now, only 3, but nonetheless more buying by the funds. On the Chicago wheat side, still net short almost 100,000 contracts, and canola lost a lot of ground because of those geopolitical issues. Only net long 35,500 as of now.
Yeah, so, the funds, I think the bleeding has stopped. Like I said, I think the low is in July for corn. The beans have started to move higher. The funds have, again, they're nervous. They're nervous about a Chinese trade deal. They're nervous about the poor finish, maybe in the beans. And so that's why I'm saying remain patient, and let's see what happens here. Remember, it's month end as well into next week. So what are the funds going to do? They typically like to sell into month end, particularly if they have some profits. But in this case, I think they could take some profits on shorts, but I think they're going to continue to add to their long positions. Don't forget our final event to the tour, 2025 Great Ontario Yield Tour. Don't forget to go to X. That's our main social media account. In the search bar at the top right, just type in #ONYield25, and you can see all the photos. You can comment. Give me some comments if you're a farmer in Ontario. What do you think? It's a mixed bag. There's a lot of hot spots, regionals, even within a field. So I can go test corn in a field. It'll come in at 220, and at the opposite end of the field, it's 150. Why? Because that field did not get consistent rain across that field. It was that's how spotty it was in Ontario. So I look forward to seeing you next Thursday, where we're going to release those final yields for Ontario. This is our mid-tour tour update with Henry Prinzen from Mazex. He's the chief agronomist of the tour. That's the link to the video. So if you want to watch that and get a quick 2-minute update. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the podcast, and provide your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Until next week, take care. Have fun.
Take care, guys. Bye for now.